か生かしたんだ。
気持ちはわかるけどな、オサム。この世に超能力なんてものがあるはずがないんだ。この間のスプーンだってお父さんの前では曲がらなかっただろう。
あれはでも一人でやった時は本当に曲がったんだ。
There is no spoon.
この世に超能力なんてものがあるはずがないんだ。
生かしたんだ。
気持ちはわかるけどな、オサム。この世に超能力なんてものがあるはずがないんだ。
ギラギラギラ光る星のガス毒液がみつく顎。
この世に超能力なんてものがあるはずがないんだ。
ともこちゃん、今何の研究をしてるんですか？
今、人の心が分かっちゃうコンピューターを研究しています。
人の心？
おまわりさんがそれを持ってれば悪い人だってすぐ見つけちゃうでしょ。
It's a gun that reads the psychopaths of the target you're aiming at. The safety's only released when it registers the target as a latent criminal. All you gotta do is follow the Dominator's commands. Oh shit!
タンザーの洞窟探検に行くんだ。僕タンザは？私も明日お仕事でそこに行くのよ。
せや！
じゃあ。
Remember to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. What's up everyone, I'm the Kaiju no Kami from the Toku Animation News Network, and today I'm taking a look at Kamen Rider Black RX, which Discotech had released on Blu-ray a while ago. Kamen Rider Black had ended on a somber note as lead hero Kotaro Minami had lost his friends and family in his quest to stop Gorgum and their king. As such, it was decided that the next Kamen Rider series would have a tonal change as they felt the show had gotten too dark for its intended audience. One report says this was a decision producer Shigenori Takatera had made. Others state it was actually the television network MBS who had requested the violence be reduced. And then there was Black's lead actor, Tetsuo Karata, who claims it was his idea when he was hired on to continue the adventures of Kotaro and wanted something younger viewers could enjoy just as easily as older ones. Titles that were bounced around include Kamen Rider Mach 9 and Kamen Rider R2 before just adding a prescription to Black. RX was airing at the time the Showa Emperor, Hirohito, died. Thus, it also became the first show to be airing when the Heisei period kicked off. Regardless, it is considered to be the final Showa series and would end up being the last Kamen Rider show for a decade. What is odd about this though is RX has been featured in more video game crossovers than any other Kamen Rider, even compared to Ichigo. Hey, wait a minute, I already reviewed this show. So, what did I think about it the first time I reviewed it?
I hope I never have to watch this series again.
Ouch. Ooh. Yeah. Will it be better the second time around? Watch to find out. The heroes. One of the best aspects to Black was how dark and dreary everything was. Kotaro had won the war, but he lost practically everything in the battle. His friends and family were either dead or gone. He would have to live with being a cyborg forever. It was a bittersweet ending to a spectacular show and fit with the tone. So what did they do with Kotaro and RX? They made him a happy, silly, clumsy goofball.
だから今度ゆっくり付き合うって。今度は絶対ね。
今度っていつ？
それはレイちゃんに任せるよ。
Where's my Kotaro? That's not my Kotaro. I want my Kotaro back. That's right, in the weeks following Gorgum's defeat, Kotaro somehow got a job, was adopted by his boss's family, he got a girlfriend, and was no longer conflicted with his tragic backstory. He was an entirely new character with a new outlook on life. But is that really all that bad? After all, he defeated Gorgum. Would it really be unexpected for him to go out and find a new life for himself? Does Kotaro not deserve to be happy? When you take this thought into account, it makes a lot of sense as to why Kotaro was more of a fun guy over the broody one we had before. While I may prefer his persona from Black, him being happier here should not be discouraged, as he fought through hell to get to this point. As such, it's kind of interesting to see an easygoing Kotaro. And it's not like he acts nonchalant when a new threat arises. This new threat being an interdimensional empire named Crisis wanting to colonize the Earth. Naturally, this in turn sees Kotaro receiving a new set of powers, renaming himself Kamen Rider Black RX.
俺はブラックの体じゃない。
This time now, Kotaro wields his own special lightsaber that he whips out of his waist after getting excited in battle rather than having to fight with his fists. As the series progresses, he acquires two new forms. The first is a robot armored form called Robo Rider. The second an organic facade deemed Bio Rider. I have no idea why he needed new names for these forms, especially since everyone in the world seems to know to call him Robo or Bio Rider when he is transformed, but he does. I do like the Robo Rider form, as the gold and black are really striking, especially in the face. Bio Rider's colors aren't as complementary to his look, and this form pretty much becomes his MacGuffin to get him out of any situation the plot throws at him for convenience sake. And boy, does this show feature every plot convenience imaginable.
確かに俺の心臓お前はついた。俺はバイオライダーとなってお前の攻撃を受け止め、無力か。そして元に戻って倒れてみせたんだ。
For example, there's one episode where Kotaro has to travel to Crisis's Kaima realm to save his boss's children. How does he do this? Simple! The monster of the week that is sent to defeat Kotaro just happens to have a giant button on his chest that acts as a transporter between realms.
That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
何をする？鉄ガロ、お前にカイマ界まで連れて行ってもらうぞ。
Really stupid.
Another episode has Kotaro's energy being stolen from him.
ジャンプやキックのエネルギーが吸い取られてしまう。キングストーンのエネルギーが。南光太郎、貴様のエネルギーは朽ちているだろう。
How does he overcome this situation? By looking at the sun.
俺は太陽の子。
Being stupid.
It's quite tiresome, as nothing ever feels as detrimental as they should, especially considering what was at stake in the previous show. What's even more disappointing is how invincible Kotaro is even when he isn't transformed. He has a tussle in the beginning of the show with a detective, sometimes physically harming the dude in the process, but nothing ever comes out of it. He is never arrested, and we never learn why the detective was suspicious about Kotaro, as he just disappears after a few episodes.
仲間かあの泥棒！ごめんなさい。すいません。前々からお前は怪しい奴だと思ってたんだ。今度という今度はじっくり仕上げてる。覚悟しろ。やむを得ない。
This would have really been a prime opportunity to dive into some story aspects that revolve around the previous show. Maybe have the detective actually part of some Gorgum remnant, and he is using the legal system as his only means of revenge. Perhaps he suspects Kochiro's involvement with the events from the previous series and wants him in for questioning. There were so many endless opportunities that went nowhere with this character. In fact, the only time Kochiro is actually hunted by the police is because the villains hacked into the police computers and gave Kochiro a record.
2年前の8月、銀座にあるデパートが爆弾を仕掛けられ、指紋などから東京にあるサーラ航空所属ヘリコプターパイロット南光太郎20歳を犯人と断定逮捕しました。
現在、大学教授、評論家、政治家、弁護士たちの中で近い将来我らに反逆する可能性のあるものをリストアップし、南光太郎の時と同じように過去の未解決事件の犯人に仕立て上げ、警視庁のコンピューターに送り込んでおります。
このように逮捕連行されたのはいずれも明日の日本を担うであろう各界の精鋭と言われた人たちばかりであり、社会に及ぼす影響と不安はかなり深刻なものがあります。
Oh my god, Doge is working for Crisis. Another aspect I am not a fan of was diminishing Battlehopper's death by bringing him back in a new form titled Acrobatter. Like Kochiro, he also has form changes to suit Robo and Bio Rider. For the first time ever, a Kamen Rider acquires a car as its means for transport, which is equipped with an AI.
Knight Rider, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist.
Kit, Rideron, seems to only show up when it is most expedient, and it can do practically anything. It can travel between dimensions. It can drive underwater.
Danger is the game he plays, and he holds every card.
If Kochiro needs it to do something, it does it. I don't really see why they needed to have both Acrobatter and Rideron when all it did was take away screen time from one another. The writer should have chosen one or the other, not both. Also, what happened to Road Sector? It just disappeared after Black. Moving on, Kochiro does have some allies he acquires throughout the show. The first being his boss Shinkichi Sahara, his wife Utako, their kids Shigeru and Hitomi.
何？どうした？
こうちゃんがなんで RX なんでしょ？
何よ、バカなこと言ってるんだ、瞳。
こうちゃんが RX ですって。瞳、RX が聞いたら怒るわよ。
A lot of Kochiro's adventures revolve around either Shigeru or Hitomi getting kidnapped by the villains, which Yukako does question at one point.
もうたくさんよ。どうしてうちの家族だけがこんなひどい目に遭わなきゃならないの。みんなこうちゃんがこのうちに来てからよ。歌子さん。
There is also Kochiro's girlfriend Reiko Shiratori, played by Jun Koyamaki.
これはまだ未確認なんだけど、あの太陽のことで赤い牙っていう組織が政府を脅してるんですって。
脅すって何よ？
そこまではわかんないわよ。
Koyamaki was also Diana in Spielbot. Reiko starts out as an annoying character, but she does get better during the last quarter of the show.
自分が恥ずかしいわ。
レイちゃんはレイちゃんなりに戦ってきたさ。
ダメよ。私は自分に甘えてきただけ。京子ちゃんを見てたら、もう甘えは許されないと思ったの。私もクライシスと戦うわ。
Next up is a man that joins Kochiro on his quest during the second half named Joe of the Haze.
Shigeru-kun, 孝太郎さん。ジョー、君がどうして？俺はあんたを兄貴分と決めた。これからはどこにでもついていく。
He is an Earthling that got taken to the Kaima realm when Kochiro rescued him, and the two instantly became friends. They will often work together to stop the evil plots of the Crisis Empire until Joe is injured and taken out for about 10 episodes.
だが、霞のジョーは瀕死の重傷を負い、しばらくは戦いから離れなければならなかった。
When he returns, he seems to have been turned into comic relief.
ようこそ。
立花だ。
I'm still not exactly sure why the writers felt the need to sabotage Joe's character, especially when they had already done that with Kotaro, but he's still my favorite.
お前なら釣れるのか。こんなもんへのかっぱさ。ま。
That's disgusting.
Some of you may recognize actor Rika Koyama, first roles as Yamato in Naruto, Emiya in Fate Zero, Kuze in Ghost in the Shell's second gig, Belphegor in Fullmetal Panic second raid, and Zeppeli in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He is also the voice for Wolverine in the Marvel anime series, and funny enough is the voice of Frank Taylor in the Japanese dub of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight.
クライシスに騙されたとしても、騙されなかったとしても、いずれ君はその任務を帯びて地球にやってきたはずだ。
Another addition to his team is a young girl, Kyoko Matoba. The Crisis Empire murders her parents in front of her during one of their plots. She learns how to control water, making her a vital asset to Kotaro. She also releases her inner Katniss. Finally, if you recall my review of Black, I talked about how Toei had put that series into its own universe that was separate from the previous Kamen Rider series. Here, Toei changed their minds and placed it in their regular Kamen Rider universe. As such, the show features the previous Kamen Riders from Ichigo to Z-Cross.
I am Masked Rider Warrior Leader at your service.
I am Warrior Commander. I am B3.
What?
I am Rider Man.
What? I am Masked Rider X.
What? I am Amazon.
What?
Nah, that's not right.
俺が仮面ライダー1号。俺はライダー2号。俺は V3 ライダーマン。仮面ライダー X。仮面ライダーアマゾン。仮面ライダーストロンガー。スカイライダー。俺は仮面ライダースーパーワン。俺は仮面ライダーテクラス。
We never see them out of costume, and half of the episodes they appear in just have them training in the gravel pits of the Arizona desert. Why are you looking at me like that? Are you saying Arizona can't have a gravel pit? Have you never been to Arizona before? It is one giant gravel pit. On one hand, it is cool to see the previous writers again despite them not even featuring the voices of the respective actors. On the other, they're ultimately there for fan service as they really don't accomplish anything, at least on screen. They talk about their exploits, but we never see them, which is severely disappointing.
俺たちは世界各国でクライシスの情報を集め、クライシスのスパイと戦っていたものだ。クライシスが日本に全面攻撃をかけると知り、みんなと相談して君を助けるために飛んできた。
Where the hell were you guys before? If they were going to bring in the previous writers, they each should have gotten some sort of episode of them working together with Kotaro before the finale. Oh, and sadly, we don't have any mention of Kyoko or Katsumi at all in this show. I know they went to America, but just one episode or something would have been nice, or just having Kotaro mention them once, considering Kyoko was his adopted sister. The villains. As stated before, the villains are the Crisis Empire from the Kaima realm. Their goal is to colonize Earth because their own dimension is dying. However, it's apparently taken them 10 years to enact on this plan due to Gorgum's existence. Wait a minute. They've taken 10 years to enact their invasion? Does this mean that Gorgum was the only thing keeping them at bay? And when Kotaro defeated Gorgum, it allowed them to invade the planet? Thanks a lot, Kotaro! You doomed us all by saving us from Gorgum. Anyway, leading the invasion forces is General Jark.
この暇はない。この作戦は帝国より間もなく移送される50億の民の第一陣を迎え入れるためのものだ。
His subordinates include a robot named Gatazone,
我がロボット大隊最強の戦士ガンガディ。お前はこれから地上に行き RX ものともライドロンを爆破してこい。
a descendant of a noble family, Maribaran.
私たちは困っている人たちを助けようとして水を運んできたのだ。孝太郎、悔しかったら私を倒してごらん。ただし私を倒せばこの水は一滴たりとも人間どもの口には入らん。
The oddball gymnast Gidorian.
二度とご命令には従う気は許さん。こともあるようにあのシャドウムーンメの言いなりになるとは。よくも恥をかかしてくれたな。このくらいにしておけゲドリア。
And the commander of the naval forces, Bozgun.
貴様こそ分かっていないようだな。私の真の狙いはこの作戦に釣られてのこのこ出てくる貴様の首をはね。
Initially, I was not a fan of this group. However, over time, they have grown on me quite considerably and had more characterization than I initially believed. Each member desires to be in a high-ranking position and will play against one another if it will make them look favorable towards the Emperor. Bozgun is especially dubious in his actions, which Jark does not appreciate very much.
それでは世の後の将軍の地位は狙えぬではないか。
何を申されます。
It is their inability to work as a team that ultimately causes Crisis' undoing.
ガテゾン、直ちにカイマロボットスピングレーを出しなさい。
どうしてそれを。
ボスガン、そなたもカイマ銃をだ。
カイマ銃。貴様私の身辺を調べているのか。
Even the Emperor's proxy who comes to Earth to supervise him calls them out in this aspect. Unfortunately, Dasmander fares no better against Kotaro. He constantly threatens to tell the Emperor on them as if he were goo from Gumby.
クライシス皇帝陛下は地球侵略の遅れをひどくお怒りになっている。私はあなた方の働きを調査し、場合によっては処罰する。将軍の部下思いにも頭が下がりますな。しかしご自身の首のこともお考えになった方が良いのでは。この作戦の私からのご報告、陛下もさぞ心待ちになさっておられるでしょう。
黙れ。
Toei picked a really solid cast to portray our villains. Shoujo Izuka voices Bozgun, who any Metal Heroes fan should recognize since he voices almost all of the main villains from the 80s, along with Nappa in Dragon Ball.
お前が一人じゃ寂しいだろうと思ってな。一緒にあの世に送ってやるのさ。何？助けたければ来い。鬼ヶ島の西10キロの海上だ。
Maribaran Tetsuo Takahata would go on to voice Kanoe in X on top of being featured in Windspectre, Exceed Draft, Jam Person, Ring Zero, among many others in her illustrious career.
衛星は我らクライシス人が全知全能をかけて発明したもの。この設計図を盗まれるとは何事だ。森田洋介ごときひよっこコンピューター技師に申し訳ございません。
Voice actor extraordinaire Seizo Kato portrays General Jark in all but the last few episodes of the series.
この光る杭のあるところに我がクライシス帝国は存在する。我らは日本を戦略基地として地球を支配し、新たにクライシス帝国を築くことに決定した。
He had been a villain in many of his roles, with his most notable characters being the original Megatron and Galvatron. For some reason, Hidekatsu Shibata took over for Jark for the final episodes of RX.
遥かなる我らが祖国、クライシス帝国におわします皇帝陛下。我らが宿敵 RX を倒すために。
Toshimichi Takahashi is Gatazone, who was previously Baron.
地の底に閉じ込められていた奴めの怨念を最大限に引き出し利用したまでのこと。
While Iten Naito was Godorian.
キュルキュル天は人間の体に卵を産みつけて人間の数だけ仲間を増やすことができるのです。けど
Tetsuya Matsui plays Desmander.
開幕会はここに来て急激に歪み始め、クライシス帝国は崩壊寸前の危機にある。このような時に移民船のための空港を一つも建設できぬとは何事だ。
Naturally, the one to be Crisis himself was the one true villain of Showa Kamen Rider, Goro Naya.
ぬごときの力では RX を倒すことはできぬぞ。ウヌは三大隊長を失い、アリバロンすらも手ひどい敗北を喫した。
Each commander has their own set of monsters, be it an organic beast, a robot, an alien-like critter, or some sort of supernatural phenomenon. Keita Amameya designed them, which makes sense as they are pretty awesome looking for the most part, even though many of them just look like random designs thrown together as opposed to the more animalistic type critters we are used to seeing. There is one that looks like duct tape wrapped around a robot. Another that would give Freddy Krueger nightmares. This prick of a monster who looks nothing like a cactus. One whose name, I kid you not, is Flammy Glammy.
Dorian, グラーミグラーミは何をしていたのだ？
それより海魔界より地球に呼び寄せたサム博士によって。
And this appealing monster, played by the late Koen Okumura.
Washi wa この凍ったバナナを南光太郎の心臓にちょっと突き刺してやるつもりじゃよ。
そんな
One of my favorites is the one that resembled Son Goku.
I will crush you!
No, the actual Monkey King, not the Dragon Ball version. Unlike Black, the Crisis Empire does have a set of grunts called Chaps. They're pretty much mindless drones with white faces and alternate between being beige, gray, and black suits. There's also a group of skeleton warriors. None of them stand out as much as they don't do anything special, though it is cool when the skeleton dudes wield scythes. Lastly, as if the show didn't damage Black's reputation enough, Shadow Moon returns. Yay? He appears in episode 22 and then doesn't show up again until 27, where he redeems himself because of course we can't have an evil rider die evil.
Yuki RX, あの子供たちのことは俺に任せろ。送り届けるくらいの力ならまだ残ってる。
What do they keep doing to my black characters?
Phrasing?
Oops. The effects and music. Aside from some bad effects every now and then, the effects and music are on par with Black. Thus, there's not much to really talk about, though it seems like the light reflecting off General Jark's mask would often get in the way of the camera, causing the picture to look blurry as if the camera was unable to focus.
単にあやつの RX に対する本能を利用しただけなのだ。それを
Fight scenes are well shot and choreographed at times. There's some really neat camera work revolving around helicopters, which makes sense given Kotaro is now a helicopter pilot. As I said, if you already followed the effects work in Black and had no problem there, you will have no problem with the effects work here. The same can be said for the music, which continues to rock thanks to the recently deceased Eiji Kawamura. It also features some of my favorite tracks from Black.
大丈夫大丈夫。ほら、なんともないよ。
怪我一つないなんて。よかった。
橋を落とした上でバリアを張り巡らし、この四国を日本列島から完全に遮断。
The new opening theme is just as cool and catchy as it was in the previous show. I can't say the same for the ending theme, Shigenori Rider RX, as it's pretty boring. Both are sung by Takayuki Miyauchi, who would go on to sing the opening to Wind Spectre a year later. The episodes. The biggest thing against the series is it being a direct sequel to Black. RX is tough to review because it's not really all that bad of a show, but making it a direct sequel to Black gave it extra expectations it could not live up to. Sometimes it feels like they took everything that made Black good and did the exact opposite of that. It doesn't help that the show has no idea what its tone wants to be. Sometimes it will be way too silly, while at other times it will have serious moments such as the murdering of Kyoko's parents and something that General Jark does in episode 46. I do like how story-driven it can feel, as there are a lot more episodes related to the main plot compared to Black, which did meander around for a huge chunk of time. There's a solid 4-part story in the early teens. The inclusion of Robo Rider and Bio Rider was interesting, as was giving Kotaro a diverse set of allies that assist him in defeating Crisis. Even the Sahara family try to do their best to oppose Crisis when the need arises. The biggest issue is you know how things are going to play out for the most part. While Black may have had more filler-esque episodes, you were always on the edge of your seat wondering if Kotaro was going to rescue Nobuhiko or not. And then when he became Shadow Moon, you didn't know what direction the show was going to go in because an evil rider to this extent had never been truly done before. Was Shadow Moon going to become good? Was he going to stay evil? Was he going to get saved? What was he going to do? Was he going to conquer the world? Did he kill Black? Well, he did kill Black. Black came back. How was he going to defeat Shadow Moon? Was he going to redeem Shadow Moon? There were so many questions going on throughout Black. Here, it's pretty straightforward. Again, it doesn't make it bad, and I'm glad they didn't just repeat Black, but at the same time, I wish they had gone with an entirely new protagonist. And if they wanted it to strictly be a sequel to Black, why not have it do what Kamen Rider did when it went to V3? Giving RX a fresh start would have been beneficial to it, as it will forever live in the shadow of Black. It just doesn't compare to Black, despite being able to stand on its own 2 legs. Moving forward, some of my favorite episodes include the aforementioned multi-parter where Hitomi is taken to the Kaima realm and Kotaro has to chase after her, which is where he gains his additional forms and meets Joe the Haze. Hitomi is turned into a teen, but you know Kotaro is just gonna find a way to reverse the situation in the end, which took out all of the suspense and tension. It would have been more shocking if they had left Hitomi as a teenager and that her parents had to come to grips with what occurred. This could have made for some groundbreaking changes on the show's story, breaking the status quo. There was another solid duel that featured a cool boat fight and some vacation resort spots. In the end, I chose episode 41, The Terror of Hyakume Baba, to be my favorite. This one sees Kyoko being captured by Marabaran's aunt.
今度はお前の命が欲しい。
お前はクライスの養族ね。
命をくれ。命をくれ。
Kotaro has to find a way to stop her.
Of course!
It's a pretty eerie episode, easily the most atmospheric of the series, and one of the few that feels close to the tones of Black. Not to mention that Hyakume Baba is just plain creepy looking. If you start calling yourself Lisa Trevor, we're gonna have a situation here. There were a couple of contenders for my least favorite episode, with the winner belonging to RX Becomes a Pig. In this travesty, Crisis creates a device that can turn people into animals.
猫は犬になれ。猫は犬になれ。
素晴らしい。
The device ends up in the hands of a child thanks to 2 incompetent chaps, and then he turns his teachers into pigs. He transforms himself into a gorilla to get back at some bullies.
もう誰にもバカにされないぞ
Kotaro seemingly gets turned into a pig as well. Does that sound stupid to you? Because it is. Animal Farm, this is not the movie. Put on your 3D glasses because Kamen Rider Black RX had a 16-minute movie shot in 3D. And what does our friend Alucard have to say about 3D?
That's a stupid fucking gimmick and everyone knows it.
I do have to give some credit to the production team though, as they tried to make it so that every scene of the film had something in the foreground, so there was always a 3D effect. The problem is that this movie is nothing beyond its gimmick. Kotaro is attacked by the Skeleton Warriors, who always tend to slash at the camera, and he finds himself reverting back to just being black.
Phrasing.
Somehow, he meets with his future RX self, along with Robo Rider and Bio Rider, who are all separate individuals right now.
You've created a time paradox.
Together, the four fight the Gorgon priests along with some previously defeated monsters. It was hands down the longest 16-minute movie ever. Though I did like this one moment here where Kotaro heard his own theme song from Black. The Blu-ray. Discotek's Blu-ray follows the pattern we have seen with all their other releases. We have the slipcase, a regular case, and then discs in trays. Like with Black, the audio and video are exceptional as they come in a fully remastered HD transfer on 4 discs. Bonus features include the usual promos, interviews with both Karata and his suit actor Jiro Okamoto.
最初はね、ブラックの変身ポーズはね、もっとこうクールだったんですよ。ピュッていうような感じで。だけどそれは僕がちょっとアレンジしてこうクッとなんかこう低くなってしたらそれがいいな。
で、後ろを向いて落ちてて、あれ？まだつかないとか思うわけですよ。それでそう思った時にドーンって落ちるわけですよ。でその人形も結構ちょっと重たい人形っていうかあれだったんで多少腕にガツッときたんですけど、
僕がね、途中でちょっとパーマかけた時があってそれは結構怒ったね。なんでパーマかけんのっつって
俺パーマかけるとさなんか違うか頭になったような気がしてさ全く違うんだもん。
Production designs and set photos. And another wonderful essay that gives us insight as to what went on during the production of RX. I feel like my enjoyment of this series was enhanced by having a competent subtitle script that made sense.
父親は元クライシスの科学者で我々を裏切り地球へ逃亡しそこにいる女と一緒になり友子を産んだ。
Like always, song lyrics are subbed in a blue font in the upper left-hand corner, while the dialogue is in yellow.
Kamen Rider Black RX!
Overall, it is a wonderful release and goes hand in hand with Black. As I said, RX really suffers from being a direct sequel to Black, as Kotaro is just too silly to be the same character. However, if you ignore that sequel aspect, RX is a really solid show on its own, especially from the Showa era of Kamen Rider. Therefore, I am going to give Kamen Rider Black RX a solid 4 out of 5 grown-ups in spandex. When RX works, it works extremely well. I enjoyed it far more this time around than I have in any other viewing, and I think not watching it directly after Black definitely helped in that matter. Same with the new subtitle script that Discotek provided. I still wouldn't say to go directly from Black to RX the same way you would from Gavon to Sherivan. Nevertheless, check this one out. Until next time, bye.
I believe I can fly, spread my wings and fly.